can we make a pact to give up this hustle culture? Like Pinky promised me, go back to your childhood because we're not having enough fun. We have really kind of glorified this hustle badge of honor. And really, what has it done for you? Has it brought you more joy? Has it validated that ego of like, I work 60-hour weeks, so there, blah, 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 blah? Or has it just led you to burnout? Maybe not feeling enough, maybe feeling like you have to do more, which leads to chronic stress and health problems. As this is the last episode of 2022 for this podcast, can we make a pact that we hang up that badge of honor and put on some other badges this year, like the badge of fun, the badge of financial freedom, the badge of flow, the badge of pleasure, the badge of whatever it is you actually want. It can be easy if you're intentional, if you truly look at why you are blocking yourself, why you are not showing up. This is a hard thing. But I want you to start doing some reflections of 2022 so that you don't bring in the same crap that wasn't serving you in 2023. Are you ready? Let's do this. Welcome to the podcast about podcasting, where you guessed it, we're talking all things podcasting, but not just in the sense of strategy of how to launch, grow, and monetize your show. Of course, you're going to get that. But we're going deep into how podcasting can actually help you build your community, build your confidence, and if you're willing to lean deep into this platform, it can be the ticket to the life of your dreams. Because it'll inspire you to go deeper, to get to know yourself. And as we know, success starts from within. If you are ready to stop being a ripple in this world and bust out your tsunami of change you know you were made for, it's podcasting for your soul. I'm your host, Jen Dragonette, so let's dig in. I am actually really excited about this because I sat down and did this and really looked at what I was taking in, where people were actually, I don't know, I almost feel like I forget what the word is. I think it's fantasy marketing that we get sucked into on social media. We see all these people's last steps and not the 8 years it took them to get there, not the time, not the blood, sweat, and tears. But we just see that and we begin to compare ourselves. So here are some things that I have reflected and why, for me, next year, I am going to be so intentional with this podcast, with networking, with growing this show. And really, if I go over to social media land, it's going to be with intention and not with the scroll. Not with the have to, not with someone else's strategy, but what's aligned with me and my business. So one of the things as I was sitting here is I've hired a lot of mentors, a lot. In this last year, I've had at least 6 coaches or mentors or programs. And the one thing that I found versus the ones that have the lifestyle that I want versus the ones that their process I failed at was this hustle. There were a few coaches that I hired that were all about the hustle, all about having your curated life shared on social media, having your perfect this and your perfect copy and make sure there's no spelling errors and grammar errors, which if you know me, you better be prepared for all of those because although English is my first language, I don't believe that English is truly my first language, not my zone of genius. But the 3 that I followed that I paid to have the lifestyle they desired, they did some common things. One of them was they either delegated the tasks or they found the easiest, simplest ways. Meaning one of my coaches, my podcast coach, she actually threw in the towel for Instagram, vowed that her company would never be on TikTok. So she has a Facebook community, her podcast, and then she networks. That is her entire process. So she has this podcast inside her Facebook community. She has interns that post every week. And then on occasion, she does a boot camp or a masterclass. And of course, there's the promotion on her podcast and a little bit in her group. But that is the only places I see her company showing up. She has time freedom. We actually got to have a conversation with her where we stepped back and asked her, like, hey, what's your sales funnel? And she said, if you provide enough value on your podcast, you've gone from cold lead to warm lead. So if you position it correctly, that cold lead finds your show warms them up to a warm lead. And she's like, a lot of the time for her standalone courses, it goes, someone finds her through some sort of an SEO strategy or shared on another show, networking, all of those things. They get red hot during her show and they purchase one of the 2 standalone courses that she has. These are the DIYs. I think she has a community for it, but it's not something that's like a mastermind. It's literally standalone in a peer-led community. And she sells like hotcakes from that process. It's all about positioning, then warming them up with an amazing content, serving them, allowing you to move forward, and then it goes into courses. When she sells her higher ticket thing, what she does is the same thing. She positions her show correctly. She serves from her heart, aligned with God, with universe, with whatever it is she believes in. Then she leads you into either a master class or a boot camp. Here's the cool thing about her 2 lower end course programs. You can get a master class that's already been pre-recorded and it sells from there. So that's 100% out. But for her mastermind, her higher ticket mastermind, it is literally podcast. Some people come directly in from the podcast and some people take her 3 to 4 day boot camp. And she sells out every time. How is she growing her show? How is she doing that? Because she's taking intentional action. She is showing up where she knows her audience is, and she's driving traffic that actually wants to consume what she has. So where is she actually putting her efforts in? She has her podcast. She uses Pinterest marketing, networking, and she has a Facebook community because she says community is key and that's the best place still to hold a community. That's it. That's her entire sales funnel. She has people purchase right away, and then she has people that come on to sales call just to make sure that for the higher ticket stuff, you're not purchasing when you're not ready. That's it. I have another coach that I work with that she uses Facebook. That's it. That's the only place you're going to find her is Facebook. She does live, she has a community, and she gets in your DMs and has conversations with you. She is great at asking for conversations. She does not have a website. She either uses a Google Doc or a Canva graphic with a link to a PayPal link. That's it. That's her whole sales process. She's on Facebook chatting away. She's thinking about restarting her podcast, but she's like, this is driving everything I need. And she has so much word of mouth that she's not needing to bring in other people because she's networking. She's still going out and getting on other people's shows. So she is guest experting in other people's spaces, running her stuff off of Facebook without being a slave, very intentionally, that having conversations about money and then sending someone either a PayPal link directly, or if they need to learn more about what the program is, a Google Doc or a Canva document with a link to PayPal. Super simple, right? Are you starting to get the theme here? I believe that she does a newsletter once or twice a month also, which the first coach actually does a newsletter too. But oh my goodness. So what is my process going to be in reflecting, and where have I actually received and brought people in? Honestly, 90% is from having a podcast interview, connecting and building my network. 90% of my sales last year came from that. 90%. So why was I spending my time on Instagram and all these other places? I've never once made a sale or a connection through Instagram. Ever. If you love Instagram, go for it. I love it. You need to focus on your one or two things at most. So what does my plan look like for next year? I'm going to be creating content for you via this podcast. This is the best way to move forward with me. Podcast. From my podcast, I will have Pinterest be a focus and my Facebook community because I love community. I will send out graphics to guests that can be shared on other social media platforms, but I'm not sure I'm going to do that. I will get better at creating a newsletter with tips and tools and tricks and motivation that is going to be a 60-second read once a week. And I'm going to use a new software that allows me to create a blog and start actually ranking in Google for what I do. And that's it. That's going to be my sales process. Position myself correctly with SEO on Pinterest, on my podcast, lead you into either chatting with me through a podcast CPR audit, which is free, podcastcpr.com. It's a 30-minute audit with me, or through my 5-day boot camps that I'll run maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year. Podcast CPR boot camp. We have one coming up in January 9th. I will be sending out a weekly email, and I will schedule things in my Facebook group, pre-schedule them, and engage. So maybe spend an hour and a half a week on Facebook. Maybe. Because I want that engagement piece. I want to have those back and forth, and I'm going to work to be on other shows and inviting more people into my shows. Because that's the key there, is connection is key. Communication is key. Actually having conversations with people is what builds your network and leads to cash. If you're doing all these other things, trying to have your aesthetics right, rebranding, building out a website, none of that has ever worked for me, ever. I look at my website and you want to know the pages that actually got hit? The sales pages that I directed people to directly, and my podcast page. That's it. Nobody actually went to my homepage and dug for me, and all of those, because you can track where a lot of them come from, came from my podcast, came from my Facebook links, came from my Pinterest. We spend so much time doing all the other things that we forget that sales, that building our business is actually having that human connection. These last few years have been hard. And we've made it so that it's easy to be a loner, to not talk to people. But those conversations are where you're going to get to that next level. So I challenge you to look at your efforts. Where have you put your efforts? Reflect back on what's worked, what's not worked. And I want you to take the next step of that and say, okay, did it not work because I willy-nillied it? I half-assed it? Or did it not work because it just wasn't the right strategy for me? For podcasting, this podcast has grown so fast with just SEO. That one single post on social media, and I've posted it twice in Pinterest, and it's grown. I'm very proud of this little show. I'm very proud of my 100 listeners per episode, with two or three shares on Pinterest and 1 share on social media, and it's all about positioning. That's pretty awesome. And then the 2 that I put on Pinterest are around 400 downloads for those episodes. So it proves that it does something. The one I shared on social media, no change. None. 0. Zilch. Nada. And I did all the things. I posted on Instagram. I made a TikTok about it. I made a reel about it. I shared it in my stories. I shared it on my profile. I shared it in my groups, and it did not help at all. Period. End of story. But I put the one Pinterest graphic up, and I went from 100 to 400 downloads per episode. It's pretty clear to me where I need to put my focus. I need to put my focus on creating quality content and starting to see, like, where do I want to go? How do I want to do this? What can I delegate? Maybe I'm not ready to delegate to a VA, but I just got this amazing opportunity to work with this company who does a lot of AI production for copywriting. And so far, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's got to be changed to the tone of my voice, but the fact that this AI also looks up SEO for me, boom, for $90 a month for 4 episodes, I am all in, all in. So I'm trying that for a couple months, and in 3 months, I'll tell you if that actually served, because it gives you like LinkedIn articles, which I don't use LinkedIn, but I'm going to start trying it. I am going to be very intentional. And the only reason that I'm going to expand out to LinkedIn and some of these other ones is because the software company that I am trying gives you captions, gives you the copy for all the different places. And by all the different places, I am talking about your show notes, your transcriptions, Instagram, Facebook, which I am not going to use, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. It gives you an email, a blog post, LinkedIn article, YouTube description, and quotes. So I am going to start using that software, and I am going to try LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn articles for a few of the episodes and see what that does. So I'm going to test, and then I'm going to focus that attention. I'm going to create templates. I'm going to simplify. Podcast to a phone conversation to a sale. Podcast to a boot camp to a conversation to a sale. Podcast to a course. It can be that easy. I don't have to create all the other things, but I'm going to be intentional with my positioning. And I challenge you to truly look at, with this badge of honor, this hustle badge of honor, are you hustling because it makes you feel good? It strokes your ego because you have showed up, you have done the work, and that if you're doing the work, it's okay if you're not making the money to back it because at least you're busy? Or is it time to ditch that feeling? Is it time to do something more? Is it time to take intentional action so that you can have more time to have fun? For me, my words for 2023 are fun, freedom, flow, and financial abundance. So I want to know, what are your words for 2023 and how are you going to get there? So go out, make today amazing. Happy last week of 2022, and I will see you in 2023. Are you ready? I'm ready, and I can't wait to take you to the next level of your life and business. This journey is going to be great. I want to help you simplify. So in 2022, we're going to have fun by simplifying this whole entire entrepreneurship process, and we are going to ditch that hustle. Remember, you made a pact with me. So go out, do the things, have fun, be safe out there, and I will see you soon.